Good morning, wanderers, and welcome back to Bullet Wander. You join me in what's turned into actually a rather nice day, as it was raining on the way over here. And today I have a bit of a unique episode for you, so missing this one would be a grave mistake. The path of least wet. Now, okay. There's a gorgeous little tower house over there that's actually seems to be on someone's property, which I found a lot in Ireland. There's a tower house in the middle of a town that I went right up to until I realised I was actually on someone's private property. But you get that a lot in Ireland. So today you're joining me on a return to good old Kilfane Church, which was one of my earlier videos. If you missed it, it's here. It's the 13th century church, built by the Cantwells. That is, if I remember that correctly. But anyways, why are we going back there? Well, so about a month ago, my parents went off to Scotland for a tour around the Ring of Scotland with my uncle and aunt, and on their motorbikes, wouldn't you know it? And they were so rude. They didn't hold on and get me a ticket, even though at the time they bought the tickets, I was still on my learner vest. But anyways, next time, hopefully. But anyways, on their way on the ferry back, they met an Englishman who was cycling across Europe. I believe he was coming to Belfast, which is where the ferry was, and he was cycling down to stay in Dublin. And he was starting some sort of cycling pilgrimage from St. James's Gate around Ireland, and then he was going to be cycling the El Camino way over in Spain. But as my parents were talking to him, somehow I got mentioned, and I live in Kilkenny. And he has ancestry in Kilkenny, and he was here before briefly, but never got to find the graves of his ancestors. So my mission today is to find the two graves. Now, all he knew about one of the graves was that it was an old church with an effigy of a Norman knight, which is, of course, our friend, the long man, Sir Thomas Cantwell. That is, if I remember the name right, but it is Mr. Cantwell, the long man. I also found out after I made the video that there was actually a little part of the church I was missing, which was a lower graveyard, which I think was an old, which I think was a grave of a soldier. So we'll check that out as well, and we can consider this a sort of epilogue to Kilfane Church. There's the titular long man himself's pub. Now, Google Maps said that Kilfane Church was closed, but it's a ruins. How can you close a ruin? So hopefully it'll be open for us today. If you're watching this video, the likelihood is that I did manage to get in, and at least we can park in front of them and be protected. Now, when we were last here, that was all mud. I think I'll leave this in gear so it doesn't roll about. That would be very unwise. I remember this from last time, this sort of ominous walk up with all these crows crowing and birdsing. So I have here written down the name of the people that we're looking for today, who are Sarah Wimes and Hercule Langrish. Now, unfortunately, I've had no luck here. A lot of the graves are very worn, and it's very difficult to read the names of people, much less any text on the graves. But I did meet a man who was tending the grave of one of his relatives here, and he gave me a lot of history and more history about Kilfane Church and the surrounding area, and also a bit of a clue as to where we might find them. So we're just going to head across the road to the Protestant side of Kilfane Church, because if he's an Englishman, it stands to reason that his ancestors might be Protestant. So let's see. The Protestant church over there bore no fruit. I did find this separate grave, which I suspected was separate because it was a Protestant graveyard. We won't go into the politics of that, but I was right that it was, because there's lots of reverends of the Irwin family buried here, as well as soldiers. So for reference, that's the Protestant church. Now that doesn't count. So, the man I met in the graveyard mentioned that he wasn't familiar with the name Weems, but they would have been around the Danesford and Thomastown area. So, the nearest graveyard between Danesford and Thomastown is Thomastown Old Graveyard, so that's where we're going to head now. Also, see this gatehouse here? That leads all the way down to an old house that was the Powers. And who are the Powers? But they who are the Powers? But the owners of the graveyard in Kilfane Church for the last few years. Oh. And you have to get permission from them, or at least you did back when they all lived there. You had to get permission from them to bury your dead in the graveyard at Kilfane Church. It's under new ownership now, but I thought that was interesting. And those British soldiers that served in the South Africa, and I think it was the Boer Wars, they would have been of the Powers family. You can probably see in the clips I took there, Powers written on their gravestones. It's turned into a real scorcher of a day. Also, I found out that Wemmies, and I think that's how I pronounced it in the Danesford video, is actually pronounced Weems, so forgive me for that. Now, the other name he said rung a bell, so maybe we'll have luck here. Now, I doubt that will be that graveyard, because that's modern enough. And the question is, can I turn left? Let's check it out. Now, I love the look of a Fiat 500, but I don't know why people insist on the eyelashes, but you know what, to each their own. Now, it could be more of the same stuff, but it could be where we'll find our missing people. Also a tip, if you're having trouble reading the letters, I found if you get your phone torch on and shine it just above, you're able to read it a lot clearer. So there's a pro tip for all you grave researchers out there, I suppose. I feel like I'm the last person that's been here in quite some time, even though it's right in the middle of the town. But we made it to the other side, where we have a notice board with some names on it. No luck here, unfortunately. But on the bright side, at least we can cross this off the potential list. I think let's head to St. Canice's so we at least get one of the two people. Now, we're back in Kilkenny now, after the unsuccessful mission outside of Kilkenny, so sorry about that. But we're going to try St. Canice's, because hopefully they'll be there. And if not, oh god, you naughty bullet. because she was speeding. If not there, then I guess this is an ultimately unsuccessful video, but it's been a nice day out in the countryside, especially considering the weather. Now let me think. Quickest way would be directly through town, so let's try that. Now rumour has it my dad is in the local motorcycle shop perusing the motorcycles, so we might come across him, so keep your eyes out for a BMW GS. Here's a few. And there's some more, but it's neither of them. This is one of the blue ones.
You want a race, buddy? Come on, let's go.
Well, that scared the life out of me. Oh, what is that lovely thing? Fantastic. BMW R80, I think. I think I've seen a similar one or the same one on Dundee for sale. Hello. Okay. Ask forgiveness, not permission, I suppose. So, that was an interesting turn of events, and it really turned my day around. Now, to cut the long story short, his grave is in fact in Kilfane, but I don't think I really have a hope of finding it, given that I checked every grave I could. But I found something much better. So, I went in and went up to the reception desk and asked the lady, would they have a list of the graves? Maybe a map of the graves, and she said, yeah, what name are you looking for? So I asked about Sarah Wames first, and she had a look, and there was no Wames to be found, unfortunately. So, oh well, you know, I tried at least. And then I said, okay, what about Langrish? And she said, oh, Langrish, that's an interesting sort of Anglo-Irish name. Very old-fashioned. And I said, yeah. And she said, what's the first name? And I said, Hercule. And her face lit up, and she said, I know who that is. Yeah. She said, come with me. So she took me into the church, because St. Canice's church is the kind that you have to pay to enter for, you know, keeping it nice and clean during non-mass times. So she took me in free of charge, but I of course paid her at the end, because I did, you know, they were very good to me. So we went in behind, and she said, she told me all about Hercule. And Hercule Langrish, actually, Reverend Sir Hercule Langrish, him and his father were architects of the church. And at the turn of the century, the church was getting a complete renovation done. And Hercule Langrish himself, and I actually have some pictures here of him and everything. You know, all I was expecting was a little gravestone, but this is delightful. I mean, I hope Mr. Ferry Bicycle Man, that all this history is new to you and that you enjoy it. But he designed these Romanesque tiles for the church, and made them at the front of the steps, and they're still there, and they look great to this day. And he also commissioned the choir pews, and the choir pews, each one tells a different story, and one of them is of St. Canice, for who St. Canice's church is named for. And that was really interesting and cool. Oh, you naughty bullet. I gotta stop doing that. I just but yeah, and she said his name comes up all the time in old books about the church, and that he was in fact buried out in Kilfane, which is odd because his father got a burial plot inside the church, but he himself didn't. Here's his father's grave at least. So there you have it, sort of a local celebrity of the times. As for Sarah Waynes, I'm afraid that secret will be taken to her grave of who she was. I'm really happy because I was a bit losing faith that this video would be a dead end and nothing would become of it, but no, that's great. An actual history of the man, and look at him there on his horse. I'm very grateful to the lady at St. Canice's Church that she was so happy to help and give me a little tour and point out the different things in church that were related to him. And she was even checking through the different books they have in the church, and she found that picture of him. It's fantastic. It just goes to show what just, you know, asking someone, hey, do you mind if I ask you about the graves, or oh, do you have any information on this or that, what that kind of thing can get you. So I recommend you do the same. And if you're in the area, Mr. Mysterious Fairy Guy, I think you should ask. And I'm sure she'll be delighted. She'll probably be like, oh, there was a young lad with beautiful red hair in recently asking about that. Are you by any chance related to him? So tell her I sent you. But that's it for today. I hope you had a great day yourself, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you like it, give me a thumbs up. Happy riding, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!